Hi friends, I'm Shauna. Welcome to the channel if you're new, or welcome back. Today we are talking about the 12-week year. We're at the halfway point and I really want to chat about how things are going. This video is going to be less on what I've accomplished so far in the 12-week year, but more so about the approach and what I've learned. I came into this with a gentle approach or philosophy, so I want to reflect on how that's going. Am I able to keep it up? How do I feel about that? And then kind of talk about the lessons so far. And at the end, I'll talk about, do I want to continue with the 12-week year? And if so, do I want to make any changes? We're going to first start off talking about this gentle approach. Have I been able to maintain that, and what has that been like? Have I stuck with it? The answer is yes. The whole approach to everything has been gentle in the sense of kind of like a slow productivity kind of way, really being cognizant of burnout, working too hard, hustling too much. It has been a joy because I've been able to work towards some goals, but at a really slow pace. And I've been able to maintain that for the last 5 weeks. I have been able to take whole days off. I went to the beach one day, and I left my house at 10 a.m., came back at 11:30. I've had a few days where I've been sick or not able to do work. Back in January or February, missing a work day would really derail my plans. I would feel so frazzled when I got sick or something like that happened. Whereas now, my plans don't just go into a tizzy because I miss one day. I'm able to just take it off and it felt good, not stressful. And I also don't have to plan for a week in order for something to, for me to take a day off, or, coming back from a day. It's not oh my God, the world is ending because I'm so behind. There's none of that. What I've learned in terms of this gentleness that I think maybe I had this inkling at the beginning of the year, but I've been able to really put into words as I've experienced it, is that I'm much less concerned with how much I accomplish, and I'm more concerned with the habits and processes that I'm establishing. And one of the key words that I chose for my 12-week year was processes and systems. So there was some of that acknowledgement at the beginning of the project. But now that we're coming through, it's that's actually the most important part, is setting up something and a work habit that is sustainable more so than hitting any kind of milestone. Yes, I would like all of my projects to be in a starting point by the 12-week year and kind of have my foundation fully developed by the end. That would be nice. But if that doesn't happen, I wouldn't be upset about that if I was able to get the foundation for all the things I wanted to along the way in terms of the work ethic and the habit, and being able to find that balance, which I feel like I've done really well. I set 3 kind of larger goals: 1 work, 1 authenticity, and 1 for creativity. There has been some changes there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But when it comes to the work goal, one thing I'm really grateful for is this kind of exploratory vibe, or this approach that kind of went with it. Because what I've noticed, or what I noticed when I watched a lot of videos, were people who were seeing the goal that they wanted, and they were so an example would be somebody who wanted to grow their YouTube following. They would say, I'm going to post 2 to 3 times a week. That's the thing that's going to make the YouTube channel grow. Maybe they'll redo their thumbnails, maybe they'll buy a new mic or something. But a lot of the time you'll just see people just I feel making promises to themselves without checking in with if they actually have that time and energy available to them. So what I did was I said, figure out how much I want to post every week. And everything was just kind of like that. Instead of giving myself an answer, I will post 2 times a week, or I will have a content strategy in Notion that will look like this. Everything was figure out the process, figure this out, because we all have a finite amount of time, energy, and money, and other resources as well. Let's say we have 10 hours a week to do stuff that isn't strictly work and chores. That's all you have, 10 hours a week. Could you theoretically put all of those 10 hours into something like working out? Sure. I could put my 10 hours into making YouTube videos. And I also could have just promised, oh yeah, I'm going to post 2 days a week. By taking the approach that I did, it was really let me figure out how much time and energy I have, and then I can decide at that point how I want to allocate that. I didn't just say, oh, I want to post 2 days a week. How can I make that happen? It kind of was the reverse. And so when I did that equation, I realized that could I post 2 videos a week? Sure, but I don't actually want to spend all of my time in that way, because I have other projects and things that I would like to work on that are equally important to me. So it became kind of like this math. Here are the options I have available to me. I could sleep less. I could have less downtime. I could spend less time with my partner. I could post fewer YouTube videos, or I could work on those other projects less. Those are the options I have available to me. What things am I willing or not willing to do? No, I don't want to sleep less. I'm not really willing to cut my downtime all that much, nor partner time. So it's either less YouTube videos or less of the other stuff. And so that was really helpful in helping me make the choice of like how much is enough, like what is enough in this case. I was doing the other approach previously where it was, I want to post 2 days a week. How do I make that happen? The past few weeks has really shown me just how much I was spreading myself thin last time. And now that I've like really done an assessment on the time and energy that I have, it makes my choice of this is how many videos I want to post a confident choice. And also not one where I'm just out here feeling like shit because I decided I wanted to post 2 videos a week and now I can't meet that. And so I either have to work harder so I could do all the other things I want to do, or I decide to let something go and then I feel like crap because I didn't accomplish that thing. And hustling super hard also can like feel great in the moment, but then like you get less sleep and you're tired all the time, and that's not great either. And I think before, like 6-7 months ago, I wasn't making the choice with confidence. It was, this is how much I want to do. Like, let me hustle enough to get there, or let me hustle my way to get there. Sure, that's a choice, but saying, you know what, I only have this much time and energy, and here's how I want to spend it. That is very intentional. And when I'm intentional and I feel like my choices are aligning with like my beliefs and my values, it just like fosters confidence. So I feel like reinvigorated by these choices and the kind of approach that I've been taking. The second kind of larger topic I want to talk about here is this idea of intentionality, but more so specifically like trusting your gut and trusting yourself. What has happened over the past 5 weeks is that there have been tasks that I have not wanted to do. I put them on for whatever reason, but I have not wanted to do them. Let's take painting as an example. That was in my creativity goal. I wanted to paint like once every 7 to 10 days. I didn't do it twice. And at first I was like, I think you should. Like, I really think that you should do this thing because like you've acknowledged that painting makes you feel good. And it's one of those creativity kinds of things that like nourishes you. And so I had this moment where I thought about the choice. Do I want to be disciplined about this, or do I just want to let it go? And I ultimately decided that I do not want to be disciplined when it comes to something like a creative hobby or outlet. And my creative outlets, they ebb and flow over a year. And I never want to force them. And I really just wanted to trust myself to say, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm not going to do it. And it's not a lazy thing. It's I am not feeling this right now. There is a time and a place for discipline. And I think the 12-week year could maybe insinuate, or we can assume because we're doing this thing called the 12-week year, we should be disciplined. And that has been my default in the past. Reading books I don't want to read, as an example. But we need to learn in ourselves when are the times and places to be disciplined. And for me, creative hobbies are not that place. And I am willing to to go with the ebb and the flows, where there are certain things where you need the discipline to keep it up. And it doesn't have to be work either. It could be something for mental health, like writing in your journal every morning, or doing this kind of workbook or some kind of homework that your mental health professional has assigned to you. These past 5 weeks has really shown me where I want to have discipline in my life and where I don't. And when it comes into creativity in specific, last year I had this talk about the concept of creativity and how I always kind of thought of myself as not a creative person. And so I was having this kind of conversation again with, okay, you don't want to paint. That's fine. But what are you doing to be a creative person, to nourish that side of you, which has been a value that has been established to me recently. And so that video I made more than a year ago now at this point kind of really, stuck out to me again, because I was prioritizing the really overt creative projects, and I wasn't acknowledging or leaning into, or I would say appreciating, some of the other non-overtly or maybe stereotypical / tropey types of creativity. I have done a handful of creative projects on Pinterest over the past 5 weeks, and I wasn't really acknowledging them at the time as creative outlets. So is watching videos on capsule wardrobes, but also one of the things that I realized after I did it was rejigging my workflow, my video content creation workflow. That whole thing took me 2 days. I was watching videos and then taking some breaks and then kind of brainstorming some stuff here and then troubleshooting there. And while I didn't do a lot of creating, this whole troubleshooting, problem solving thing was so enjoyable, and I got super sucked into it, and I let myself get sucked into it because it was truly so much fun. And that is in and of itself a creative project. Kind of turned out, when I thought about it, my creative cup was kind of full, but not in the ways that I had anticipated. And so I really trusted myself to take off some of those things that I wasn't doing and just not feel guilty about it, which kind of leads me into my last discussion point, or I guess that was the creativity thing was an aside. And I guess maybe brings me back to the larger point I want to talk about with intuition and trusting yourself. Watching myself make choices over and over again over the past 5 weeks has been a joy, because I have made some changes to the project, such as removing the authenticity goal. I changed it out for one more on mental wellness. And I think a few months ago, I might have seen that as a failure, but it's more so I'm actually making a change that feels right. And there should never really be a feeling of failure when you do that. And there was a lot of, trusting myself to make that choice. And when I look at the last handful of years, I've had this feeling of feeling lost. I felt like I didn't know who I was. And I also didn't trust myself to make choices. I can think about many, many times over the last 2 to 3 years where I didn't trust myself to make a choice, and I didn't feel comfortable making the choice, and I waffled on some things and some pretty big choices as well. This feels like a big 360 from where I was 1.5 years to 2 years ago. And you might say, well, you know what? These aren't big choices. It's not a big deal. But I would disagree with that line of thinking. Feeling lost had, like, if you've ever felt lost and you know how it feels, and it can really affect your whole identity, and it all can also make you feel uncertain about a lot of the things in your life, such as like the job that you have, the home that you live, the clothes that you wear, your style, you know, like truly everything. And it can be an overwhelming feeling. And if you feel lost and you don't feel like you know who you are or what you like, and when it affects so many other things in your life, it could be difficult to make even the smallest choice. Should I wear this blouse today? Well, is that even me? Is that me? Do I like this blouse? Like, do I even like this blouse? Do I like, what kind of food do I like? And it could make kind of everyday choices, like the food that you want to eat and the clothes that you want to wear. It can feel like they're big choices, but when you have so many, it can be overwhelming. And so to see myself make so many choices so consistently at kind of maybe big and small levels has just been wonderful to witness. And that was not something I considered when I started this project. And I'm really happy to report that, like, that's kind of been the side effect. So the last thing to talk about is, how do I feel about the 12-week year as a method? As I touched on at the beginning of the video, I have really liked this gentleness and the process that I've established more so than this like 12-week container. I don't feel particularly strongly about it at this point, because what I feel like is making the most difference is the process and not the container. I don't think that the 12-week year is harmful in any way, or like that process is harmful. I just don't know that it is this like miracle pill or this miracle solution like the developers have kind of made it out to be. I do think it's possible that my approach is one that just doesn't align with the 12-week year, because if you are hustling and you're super goal-oriented and you have these like really clear milestones that you want to hit, like these really, really clear goals, and you know, you are using lead and lag goals, I can see how having this like 12-week year would be really helpful to keep things constantly fresh and constantly in your mind of like what you're working towards. But because I'm not using any lag goals, very many lag goals, I'm mostly going with lead goals here. It's not this like hustle moment that I feel like the 12-week year really lends itself to. So in all, I don't feel particularly strongly about it. I feel kind of indifferent, and I think indifference isn't going to lead anywhere spectacular. Like, I don't know if this will truly have legs beyond one iteration if I feel this indifference. Like, yes, am I working towards my goals? Sure. Am I making progress? Yes. And I'm very pleased that I'm making progress. What I think the rest of the project is going to illuminate is what's going to happen once all that foundation has been laid. I think foundation laying lends itself to a gentler approach, or this kind of like slow productivity approach. I think those two go together really well. What happens when that's done? Will I just fall off? Or will I want to get into high gear or kick it into high gear to really like push towards something? I'm truly uncertain at this point. And I guess we'll see where we are at the end of the 12 weeks. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, hanging out with me. I'd love it if you would subscribe to catch more content like this. I can't believe we're 5 weeks in. I will be back around October 1st to give you that end project update. You know, we'll talk about how it shook down, and am I going to continue at that point? Thanks for watching and hanging out, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.